Kris Versteeg, two-time Stanley Cup champion, inventor of the Clever app, which you can download for free in the App Store, and I highly recommend, as always. And yeah, partner with Quint. What's up, brother? How are we doing?
I'm good. How are you, JD?
I feel bad.
I was going to say, you don't sound great.
No, I mean, I feel bad because I asked you to watch that game last night. I was like, hey, buddy, make sure you watch that game. And it's that. Oof. It's a horrible game. I was just like...
It was tough.
That was not a fun one. Like
that was like Minnesota when I played in the league.
Yeah.
Never turn on the tube
until
playoffs with Minnesota.
Dude, it was funny, too, because the pregame, they were doing all the, Kaprizov stuff, rightfully so. He's ripped it up. Like I had Bogosian on the show last week, and he was talking about his skill and just the all world being around a guy like that. And they've got some, like Faber is another good one. It does feel like a different Minnesota team. And then you watch that game and you went, oof, this is a Sunday game. This isn't Hockey Night in Canada. This is Sunday against Minnesota.
Yeah, that's like the old AHL days when you're on Sunday and a 3-on-3 and you're like, nobody hit me, please. Yeah. Nobody hit me.
Okay, so I'm going to start with this. Is Matthews is in a bit of a slump right now, and I don't know if there's too much to it. I think it is ultimately going to be fine. But, yeah, just do you think that there's anything to the captaincy stuff where it's like, hey, there's added responsibilities. This is actually weighing on him in some way. This adds attention because my feeling has always been, yeah, modern day captaincy or him switching over to this, especially given the pressure that he's always had in this market, is not that big of a deal. But like, do you think that does change anything when a guy is slumping a little bit?
100%.
Really?
He's taken, no doubt in my mind, when you're taking the captain on, even the way it was done, you're going to put added pressure on yourself. I kind of attribute it back to Jonathan Toews. He takes the captain. He was a much younger captain at that time. There's just more of a role, more of a leadership role you got to take on. You got to be ready to call guys out. But the problem is now when you're calling guys out, you got to show up and play as well. You can't have any lag in your game. And you got to be able to hold guys accountable because your play also has to speak for itself. So taking on the captaincy is a big thing. And then having to go out and produce, I could see why he's putting a little bit of added pressure on himself. And you can see why maybe the offensive side hasn't come fully, full circle yet. I also see little plays with him where maybe he's trying to do a little too much. He's not moving the puck quick enough. He's extending his shifts, trying to do, it's kind of like Kevin Durant they used to talk about back in the day too, where it was like, he plays a great game and then he gets to the playoffs and he's trying to do everything himself. So sometimes I see a little bit of that with Auston, just trusting his line mates more. He gets into puck battles where he doesn't need to if he could move it a bit quicker. But I think putting the C on the chest is just added pressure, and he's working through it. And I have no reason why he won't snap out of it or get his game going or offensively. But yes, there is added pressure.
There's definitely a feeling like he's trying to add a little bit more physicality to his game since he's been the captain. Like
he's trying to drive the bus, right?
Yeah.
He's got to do it.
Yeah. Like specifically, I loved seeing him with the huge cross-check in the Blues game on Saturday. I just, to me, I've been somebody who's been clamoring for more bite and more edge to his game. I know that's not the main thing that's going to make Auston Matthews, right? Like we've talked about this, you and I, many times, that the team starts to feel like it has an identity when he's scoring multiple goals. He feels extremely dangerous, and he's doing the fist pumps and the pose with the two hands up in the air, asking the crowd to give him some love. Those ones, that's when the team feels at its best. But I did love that play, him sticking up for Mitch. That did feel like a little bit of an evolution for him using his size, being a little nasty, sticking up for a teammate. I was good with that.
Yeah, I was good with that too. Back to his little bit of a slump as well. Mm-hmm. When you're the top guy and you're a captain, you also got to play harder in your own end, which sometimes will lead to less offense. Mm-hmm. So the small details to your own game can take away from your offensive side. So you actually see him battling in the D zone, I think, even more at a higher level than he did last year. But back to the cross-check from Suter on Marner. I love Matthews stepping in, but I'm telling you, a team moment would have been him just dropping his gloves and jumping them. That would have been an absolute team moment. I was watching that Calgary-Vancouver game when, was it Rooney got laid out? Mm-hmm. Did you see that? And every single guy on the ice was chucking knucks. I'm not saying that he had to do that. I love that he jumped in and he gave it to Suter. But those are kind of like team building moments where you look back and say, hey, this guy stuck up for me. I'm not expecting him to drop the gloves.
Yeah.
But, man, would that not have been just something that set the whole Leafs bench off as a whole melee started on that play right there?
Yeah, I agree with you. And actually, the one thing about that play that I don't know if there was enough made about it, because I didn't do Leafs talk that night. I was watching at the bar, and I was with some friends, and we were like kind of celebrating. But when I watched it over again, when I like watched the highlights of it, it's the other Leafs players still standing around. Like I hate to do this to Morgan Rielly, but man, Morgan Rielly, you're right there.
That's what. Yeah, like Marner gets absolutely folded with a cross check.
Yeah.
Matthews jumps in, and everyone's just standing there. That's what I'm saying. Like, just get in there. Even start face washing guys. You don't have to throw it, but just start throwing guys to the ground and get the emotion of the game up. And other things start to follow after that. McCabe throws a hit and other things like that. And then obviously Holmberg's the one fighting Buchnevich. I think that happened after. Correct?
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, get in there.
Yeah.
Start grabbing guys and get the emotion of the game and show, hey guys, like, one of our best players just got folded by a cross check, and everyone jump in, get in there, and just drive the emotion up. We've always said the emotion piece of this team is an issue.
Yeah, it is.
Especially come playoff time. Those are just little moments that you can pick out to where, Matthews is the guy throwing a shot, but who else threw one?
Yeah, that's it though. This is one of the things about the Berube team that I've been kind of curious about, and I've been pointing out Reaves lately, right? Like Reaves still doesn't have a fight. And he had the game against the Rangers where the Rangers dressed Rempe, they dressed him, and you thought, okay, these two guys are going to go at it. And honestly, I'm not someone who needs to have the fight where it's a fake one, right? Like where it's two guys that just stand and square off and go for it. But it was an emotional game. It was a big game. Rempe came out early in the game and was kind of running around a little bit. Reaves was too, and I thought, okay, he's going to get one, doesn't end up having it. And then in this game, like kind of a similar thing where there's a lot of physical play. McCabe ends up taking a fight. This is a guy who just signed a big contract extension who's like playing on your number one pairing who you absolutely need. And Shen just beat the brakes off of him early in the game. Like horrible mismatch for Jake McCabe. Highly respect that he ended up taking him on. But yeah, that's a, 6'4", strong as an ox Saskatchewan guy. And, you're not that. This is not your weight class. This is sort of supposed to be where Ryan Reaves is. And I have been missing a little bit of that element. It's like Reaves is he's the figurehead for all of this to me, because it's like, you're supposed to fight. You're supposed to be the guy that is setting that physical tone, and you just kind of haven't really been. And if you're not doing that when you're in the lineup, I'm not really sure why you are. But it doesn't feel like it's been there with the rest of the lineup in the way that I thought it was going to be this season. Yeah,
and you never want to tell a guy to go fight, right? Just because that's such a horrible position to be in. And even as media, like Reaves, you got to go fight. I understand that's what he's there to do. And exactly what you said, if he's not there to do it, then you got to find other guys to come into the lineup to play more important minutes. So the team toughness part is much bigger than the Ryan Reaves toughness. That matters so much more. A guy gets folded, everyone jumps in. Like everyone on that play should have jumped in. That to me is way more important than Ryan Reaves going out and trying to fight. Like you said, Ryan can play a good role at times. He can play decent minutes. But if he's not bringing that piece to the game, who else in your lineup can bring some more added value to those 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes that maybe add the offense to that fourth line? But the team toughness is much bigger than one single guy. Guys need to jump in for their teammates. Guys need to be there for their teammates. It shows love. It shows camaraderie. It shows everything that you need. And those pieces where Mitch Marner gets folded and everyone jumping in are much bigger to me than anything that Ryan Reaves would do with just one single fight.
I totally agree. I think that if everybody jumps in and there is a scrum, then it also makes it more likely that Reaves is going to fight on his next shift.
Gets up. That, when there's a scrum, when you're on the bench and you're a big guy, like, say Kane got hit back in the day, everyone jumps in. Now there's a bit of a melee. The guys on the bench start getting up, and it's like, oh man, I got to get out there now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get somebody. That's how you start talking to each other on the bench. But when one guy gets folded and then another guy gets pushed and then it's over, the emotion stays level. The emotion doesn't ramp up in the game. But when everyone gets in, the bench gets up. Guys start getting on the bench like, okay, I got to do something now. Maybe not fight, but maybe go throw a hit, maybe get into a next scrum, maybe drive up the emotion of the game. And that's where the team toughness brings up the bench, and then the bench comes on the ice, and then they start to follow that up as well. Now, you got to control your emotions so you don't do anything stupid. Mm-hmm. But for me, those are the pieces of the game where you can find a way to get emotionally and your emotions heightened.
Yeah, listen, I'm totally with you. My only thing with Reaves is you're right. It does feel awkward now. Like, I understand the league has changed, and there's a lot of evolution with the league. This isn't you touch Gretzky, you die sort of thing, right? And Mitch Marner is kind of far from that. But if you are going to have Ryan Reaves on your roster, my understanding of it is the implication is if you mess with one of these star players, if you do one of those things, there will be a price that you could pay later on in the game, right? Like, that's supposed to be the implication.
Who's going to fight Reaves, right?
That's
on St. Louis.
Yeah. Guess what?
It was kind of the old Detroit thing. Like, Detroit purposely didn't dress any tough guys way back in the day because it was like, well, so when we went in with Chicago, we wouldn't dress any of our tough guys, but you still had other guys that would jump in if issues happened or would arise.
Yeah.
But so if Ryan's not going to be utilized in that role, or if Rempe's not out there, certain guys, then you got to have other guys that come into the lineup.
I mean,
but you're right. That's why he's there.
Yeah, that's it. I just
if St. Louis isn't dressing anyone who can take him, no one's going to fight Reaves.
Oh, I mean, Braden Shen sure looked like he was ready to give somebody else one because he looked phenomenal in his fight.
He can't fight Reaves, though.
Yeah, listen,
I love
all I'm going to say is I don't know who can fight Reaves anymore because Reaves still has to have a fight. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know why it hasn't happened yet. Someone would have given him a fight at some point this season. I have a really tough time believing that every single team so far has just completely avoided him and ducked him. And yeah, I still want him chasing somebody around, to be honest, after something like that. Because when they brought him in, there was all the talk, and it's like, this is Tree Living's guy, okay? This isn't a carryover from the Dubas era. This is Tree Living's guy. And it was supposed to be snot and bluster, and we're going to play with more snot.
He should be targeting guys.
That's it.
Like, you should have them out the next shift targeting one of their top D-men and run them through the boards and start, just to show a little bit of a pushback. But
that's what I'm saying. You can't bring those guys in and tell everyone snot and all this different stuff and then be like, oh, now these guys are going to have they're going to be feeling a little bit more confident because they know that they've got this guy backing them up, and then this guy doesn't ever do anything about it. And so you're like, oh, okay, well, which one was it? Because I don't apologize for commenting on something that the team essentially pushed forward as a big story for them.
Yeah, but it's the pushback. Who are you putting out after that shift, right? Now we're sending Reaves out with Lorentz and maybe Domi. Go around and start running guys.
Yeah.
That's up to the coaching staff, though, to deliver the message on, okay, our star player just got folded. Who are we putting out the next shift to run one of their guys or to get in their face? So, you don't see that a lot. You don't see, like, Craig is, again, I don't think Craig is coaching the way Craig can coach. That's what I've always said. Who is telling these guys to keep things the same? It just looks the exact same as it does last year, minus I look at shift length. Shift length's a problem for this team. Like, guys have long shifts. Craig generally is the guy you'd think that would roll over shifts, get guys out there for short shifts. Guys extend their shifts. They get caught. They get caught in fast breaks, transitions. They're a disaster off the rush at defending the rush with back pressure, guys not helping, D not sliding over. So with what I've seen has not really changed from last year. But you would think, like you said, after your star player gets folded, send Reaves over the boards to start running guys and tell them, run their best player. Go get them. Not that anyone's going to fight them, but then to show that pushback and stuff like you're asking for.
Yeah, that's what I you kind of nailed it there, though, for me, which is I've liked some of the Berube experience. I don't think that there's some
there's some good things, yeah.
Yeah, sure, but it is shocking to me how similar it feels. And maybe I'm stupid for not thinking that when essentially the roster has been the exact same, but it's like he's already pulled multiple of the Sheldon Keefe playbook. Like, preseason, Nylander's going to play center, and we're going to give him a real shot there. One preseason game in, hey, he's a winger, but we're going to give him reps here, And
the forward lineups are the same.
That's
and the
what
only time I really seen any Berube is where he put the second unit on over the first, and then the first unit finally scored. Now, those are things that you could do to push buttons, but when we're talking about the Leafs, we're not talking about them for regular season. We're talking about building a team for the playoffs. you've just stacked your top six again. You're stacking one power play unit. You split the units for what, one game?
Yeah.
How many games did they split for?
Yeah, a couple, because they had it for a few because they gave Nylander and Domi, like, I think a 3 or 4 game runway.
Was it 3 games?
Yeah. They gave them a few together. Yeah, I think it was 3. Yeah.
Okay, well, regardless, you got to build it. You got to build this team for the playoffs. You got to get your other guys involved. You know, you look at the stats right now. Domi doesn't have a goal. Now he's on the third line playing with other guys. Man, it's just like you're building a team that needs to be deep enough to have enough guys to contribute. You got to get 2 power play units going. You just keep going back to the well time and time again because you think that's what's going to get you enough wins, first off, to get you into the playoffs in a hard division. But if you get to the playoffs, what's plan B? Is there a plan B, or is it just to keep loading up and going with what you have and praying that these guys are going to get it done? But, I mean, I heard you talking at the start. Matthews' line's not going. Who else is going to score you a goal right now?
Yeah, that's it. And the Domi thing kills me. Like I was talking about it on Leafs Talk last night, how it's just very clear that if you put him in the top 6 and he's playing with talented players, you're going to get a lot out of him. If you're asking him to be the 3C and all of a sudden there's this third line, which has him and Robertson on it, where they're really undersized. And not just that, you're asking them to play a brand for both of them with like, hey, you got to be defensively responsible. You got to back check. You got to do these things. And it's like, yeah, of course you want them to be able to be responsible. Of course you don't want to feel like they're just a massive liability out there. But if those guys are all on the ice together, and it's not like McMahon hasn't scored goals, like he's been prolific since he started his career, but that none of the 3 of them together feel as though they're doing much. It's very punchless. It's very lifeless.
I know you're against this, but why can't you elevate Kemp to the 3C and move Domi over and bring Nylander down or bring Marner down to the third line and keep Tavares with someone? I don't I know you don't like that, but I don't understand why you can't try that and then maybe make Holmberg the 4C. You're going to give guys a little bit more defensive responsibility on the third line while still having some offensive output deeper in your lineup. You just keep going back to the well, loading up the top 6, putting the Domi on the third line, or putting Domi on the third line, putting him into a role where he's not going to succeed. I think you got to try to experiment with a couple different things to make your lineup deeper. And then, like you said, going into power play, maybe it's Marner that goes to the second unit. And I know we talked about that, but Marner can control an entire unit himself as well. You can see that Nylander's a one-time option yesterday, and I know Marner kind of creates that with the play up top with Matthews, but maybe Marner goes and controls the second unit. I don't know. I know it's a contract year. It's a big year for him. But if you want to win a Stanley Cup, if you look at all the great teams that win Stanley Cups, offensive guys have to take offensive production and bring it down in order to give offensive production to the deeper guys in the lineup in order to make your lineup deeper, better, and stronger. I don't know if they have the guys willing to do that. And you have guys on contract years, and you have guys that obviously want a certain amount of minutes. But I think in order to have a winning team, those are the sacrifices top guys need to make in order to understand this is what's going to build your entire team up.
I don't think that they have those guys. I don't. I don't think that Marner wants to play fewer minutes. And the thing with the camp...
Look at Patrick Kane when we won. Look at his minutes and look at his point production. And look at his point production when they didn't win Stanley Cups. When him and Panarin had 120 points, they didn't get out of the first round. Look at what happened when I know we had deeper lineups, I do feel. But look at what happened. I get it. But he also took a hit on power play, 1 minute on power play. And sometimes other guys were going. He wouldn't be on the ice. Or, he was our guy. Let's be honest. And he showed up in big games. But his offensive production went down 20, 30, 40 points at times. On teams that would win. And those are sacrifices top players need to make if you want to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah. What's crazy is Marner's actually played like almost 30 seconds more a night under Berube than he did under Keefe. Like he's playing more, and it felt as though Keefe leaned on him so much. But I don't think that they have that kind of makeup right now. I just don't, because and this isn't a shot, because I kind of related with him, and like Nylander went to Berube last week and said he wanted more ice time, and fair enough, because he's down almost 2 minutes a game, which is a big drop off for a guy like that. So I understand wanting to go up to the coach and figure out where you stand and what's going on and how you can get more ice time. And I think to his credit, he is completely unafraid. Like, the thing I like about Nylander in this situation is I think Guy really wants to play, but also he's not afraid of the smoke that's going to come with that ask. And yeah, he's volunteering to be on the penalty kill. It's something that he's done before. I guess he takes some pride in it. I don't particularly want him there. I think it should be other guys' roles for sure. But you just look at it like from the outside, you step back and go, yeah, this is one of your star players already talking about ice time when you're in the first month and a half of a new coach.
People are going to kill me for attributing this back to Patrick Kane and the Hawks and what they used to do to find him more ice time. Take Reaves off the fourth line and
they
get
did that
Nylander
the other night.
out. Yeah, I know they did it, but it's like, do it more.
Yeah.
If you find offensive situations, your fourth line's going on for an offensive draw. Okay, Reaves, you're out. Nylander, you're in.
Yep.
You can find creative ways to get him more ice time, and I think he should get more ice time if his play is doing that. To get it on the PK, you watch the PK goal against was it the one-timer?
Yeah.
Where Nylander's coming back through the middle. That's supposed to be his guy on the one-timer. He's just standing in the middle of the ice on the PK, and he gives him a free one-timer. I know there's 10 seconds left off the rush, but if you want to be a PK guy, you got to be details all day details, and you got to be willing to block shots. I don't know if he's willing to do that, but you can find other situations to flip guys off the fourth line or flip Robertson off the third line in an offensive situation. You can find Nylander more creative ways to get ice time where you're still not driving his shift length up. Maybe it's a 30-second shift with the third line. Hey, man, offensive zone face-off, boom. If it's in there, you're in. Right when it comes out, you're out, right? Those are creative ways to find high offensive guys, extra ice time within the game to get them more puck touches, to drive their minutes up. They might not like the short shift length, but hey, we're still finding you ways to get it. But yeah, when the puck comes out of the zone, you get off the ice. But you got to be willing to do that. I don't know if those guys are willing to come off the ice once they're on. I look at the shift length. It's like everyone's got a minute shift length.
Yeah, I don't see why I'm supposed to believe they do when we keep seeing the same evidence that they don't. You're not seeing this for no reason. It's the exact same thing even with the power play they keep talking about. Ultimately, when you say, hey, can Berube coach the way that he wants to, or does Savvy have the same thing? I heard Kipper the other day, he's on going, they can try to split this unit for a little bit, but ultimately Matthews, if he's like, I want to be out there, he's going to be out there. And same thing with Nylander. If you're down 2 minutes of ice time a game and they're taking you off that top unit, and every single time they run the Matthews group out there, you got to be thinking about it. It's just, it still feels like just those guys are in complete control. And of course they are, because they're the everything to this franchise. And they've been basically told that they're that and paid like they're that from the outset. I have a tough time believing that Berube is fully in control here and he's got full buy-in already from these guys. It just doesn't. It doesn't look that way.
There's one guy that deserves to stay on the ice, and it's Matthews.
Yeah.
If Matthews stays, but the other four guys got to get off the ice. That's just how I would do it. Mm-hmm. Matthews, if you're going to extend your shift, stay. Go ahead. But the other four guys, you get off the ice, and we got to get other guys into the hockey game. And that's how I'd operate it. But
you ever ask a coach for more ice time? You ever pull that move?
I did.
Who'd you do it with?
I did. And many times I've asked in my past for more ice time, and let me tell you, you better show up when you do. Because when he gives you that chance, you better show up. Whether it's PK, hey, I want to be on the PK. If you go out there and you don't block a shot, that ain't good. So I remember there was in Calgary at the start of the year not getting on the power play. The power play wasn't very good. And I came back from an injury. I asked Glenn Gulletson, hey, man, I think I can help you on the power play. At that game, he gave me a chance on the power play, and it ended up working out. So that was one time it worked out. There's times in the past with Q, I said, hey, Q, could I get more ice here? Put me on, stunk up the joint, and obviously it didn't work. So, But the time you ask for ice time, you better be willing to bring it and do exactly what you need to do for exactly what you're asking for.
He say something to you after you stunk it up, or was it just unspoken and you knew and you were like, yeah, cool, back to 13. Back to 13 minutes.
Yeah, it was the glare.
Yeah.
It was literally like those eyes haunt me at night still every time I made the mistake and I came off, and he would be piercing right through my soul. So, that was pretty much it. He didn't have to say
That's a tough one. Obviously, very, very different in terms of competition. But when I first moved to Ontario when I was in grade 11, I really, really thought I was like hot stuff with basketball. Like it was pretty much like my peak of being a player. And I went to this high school where it was like grade 13 had just ended here, but still everybody came back. So I was a grade 11 on a team that was like all like basically guys 2 years older than me, right? And they'd already told me like, hey, listen, you're not going to start at point this year. I'd never not started on any team in my entire life. They're like, you're not going to start. You're not going to start. And of course, being like a bratty kid, I went like 2 weeks not starting, right? And then I'm on the bus on the way back doing the same thing to the head coach where I like go up and sit with him. And I was like, I should start. I should start. And this is a joke. And like, you see me in practice, because in practice, I'd be running like the second unit, right? And I had the ball all the time. So like I would score the most, but it's like practice. Anyways, we go to this tournament and I think it was in Kingston. Anyway, so he doesn't start me, but he puts me in like almost immediately. Like he's like, you're going on, you're going in. And it's like, okay, finally, because I hadn't been playing very much through the first couple of weeks. I go in this game and no joke, the second possession that I had, I turn a ball over for a fast break where two guys went down. One guy dunks it hard, like their gym's losing it. And then I'm rattled from that play, pulled up, air ball, and immediately timeout. And I didn't play another minute that game. And that was the worst bus ride I think I've ever had in my entire life. Just sitting there on the back of the bus with my headphones on, probably listening to like 50 Cent or Eminem, just being mad. So yeah, I know what it's like to blow the shot and just be completely, but I'll never forget like walking to the bench and that coach just like not even looking at me, just staring up, being like, all right, you're going to sit down, like doing the hand clap. And I was like, yeah, great. That was fun. Great time.
Well, that's the worst is when your confidence is broken.
That was
right
it.
After you've asked for it.
Yeah. I think, and that was probably, like I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of a screw up by that coach to kind of lose me that early in the season when I was whatever a better player. But it was like literally just all my fault of being too cocky, being like, hey, you got to play me, better play me. Like, get me in here right now. I'm the man. And then boom, slam dunk, airball, bench. Good stuff. Anyways, okay. Oh, speaking of, things and coaches, how do you think Berube felt losing both games to his old team?
Yeah, that's got to hurt. That's got to hurt. I think about all the times I've played with coaches who've gone back to places they've coached a long time, whether it's players, and they get up for those games more than anything. So anyone who tries to tell you, it's just another game, It is not. When I went back to Chicago as a player, or if I go back with, Laviolette to Carolina, or you're going back with certain coaches, they get up extra for these games. So for the team to come out and play the way it did for him has got to hurt. There's just no doubt about it. I don't think you can attribute it the guys don't care for Craig. They're definitely out there trying to play hockey. I don't know if they're really changing the way they've played. But those games for coaches and players matter more than anything. It just sucks to see the way that they ended up for Craig because, you're going back and you're playing against a team that meant so much to you.
Yeah, and you could tell, too, because, they give him the tribute, and even the one that was in Toronto, a lot of his former players were meeting with him in the tunnel and, chopping it up before the game. You could tell it would have meant a lot to him. And
those players playing against him, it means a lot, too, because they want to show him as well.
Well, yeah, of course, especially the guys that weren't his favorites. I would imagine those guys especially are like, I'm going to do – this is my Stanley Cup.
Kyrou had a little extra pop in his step.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that it's good that you're going to get that effort from some of those guys, so you got to match it and be even over the top with it. And, I would say that, neither game was particularly inspiring from the Leafs.
Especially the first one.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah, so I wasn't watching these going like, oh, my God, they're just so snake-bitten. Binnington's standing on his head, and this is incredible that they're getting this kind of an effort from Jordan. The Blues deserve to win both games. That was it.
Especially the first one.
Yeah,
right?
The first one was bad.
That was bad. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a bad game.
Yeah. Anyways, Boston this week. So it'll be it's going to get pretty loud here if they end up losing 3 in a row, and there'll be 2 games below 500. They lose that game, and it's feeling early in Toronto right now. Anyways, Kris, thanks for making time as always, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Take care.